Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now that you've been on your spiritual path, does it feel like you're bridging two realities, one foot in the real world and the other one in the spiritual world? Well, then this video is for you. So the truth is there aren't two realities. There's only one. Essentially, we are splitting reality into two separate worlds and trying to live in both at the same time. The reality that we currently know and the reality that is currently emerging. So you might ask, why are we splitting reality into two worlds in the first place? Well, because the current world in which we're used to, we are still very much attached to many things and fear letting them go. In the second world, we are exploring a new sense of truth, and that doesn't always align with the way that we've been operating in the world for the longest time. And we haven't really fully taken that leap into the new reality yet. Today, I want to share my experiences of navigating this transition, what I've learned, and some practical insights for anyone walking a similar path. Number one, spirituality is not a practice, it's a way of life. It's our beingness. I've never liked the phrase spiritual practice. Spirituality isn't something we schedule into our day, such as after work, dinner, or chores. Spirituality isn't meant to be an extra activity on the side. It is who we are at the core. You have to live in that state of being, like knowing that you are a spiritual being while working, cooking, and even scrolling through your phone. My belief is that religious institutions drew a clear line between the holy and the mundane, such as designated places like church, temples, and mosques where people go to commune with the sacred at specific times and at specific locations. Culturally, it seems that we separated these two existences. In my opinion, this separation created a schism in our minds. The idea that the holy is only for select moments, special locations, or people in the priesthood or born with special gifts. When I stopped looking at spirituality from the outside, looking in and towards being in relationship with the greater source, more magic started to happen in my life. I felt more connected. I felt supported by the higher realms. Transitory states became easier and things opened up to me more readily. Instead of trying to become spiritual by doing things that I thought would get me there, I learned to embody that I was on a path of soul evolution in every step, in every breath, even in my moments of mindlessness. Basically, I'm talking about a mind shift here. We are already spiritual beings. We're not learning how to become more spiritual through a practice, but learning how to deepen that connection through the things that we do. Number two, the courage to walk in our own unfolding. Your spiritual growth is a personal path. As much as we crave validation, only you can validate your experience. More and more people today are exploring the self-initiated spiritual path rather than following a guru or tradition. That makes the journey more empowering and yet challenging. When I first began, I was having these profound experiences and wanted to bring everyone along with me. I even taught Reiki and initiated my loved ones into the system. They were curious, but they didn't go as deeply as I did. And honestly, I had mixed feelings about it. I was upset, I was sad, judgmental. I thought they didn't want to grow. And that was incredibly naive of me to think that. Eventually, I had to confront the truth. I wanted their participation as validation for my own journey. I realized this path was mine alone. I had to respect their path, and in doing so, I freed myself to deepen my own. My energy wasn't spent on gaining approval. It was being used to truly embody the path that I was on. For me, being caught between owning my spiritual path and trying to fit within the status quo caused me a lot of inner torment. I believe that if I had proof or someone to back up my experience, then my experiences were valid. But if I could not corroborate them, then I must be wrong, or doubt started to creep in. Each and every one of our paths is unique, but that doesn't mean we can't share. But we do need to find the courage to fully own our own journey, especially in a world that teaches us to conform instead of explore. I think most people start their journey this way, but eventually you have to take ownership. Otherwise, you'll just keep spinning in circles, never going any deeper. Number three, you have to let your relationships transform. We are social creatures. We need relationships. And I get it. It takes years to build the ones we have through trust, shared experiences, and showing up. We don't just value the person, we value all the energy that we put into building that bond. When you start shifting while on the path, vibrationally, emotionally, psychologically, Some relations will no longer align. Some may slowly drift apart. Others will end abruptly with a bang. Changing relationships hurt. We try to keep things the way they are, but they can't stay the same if one or both people are changing. For example, my sister is my best friend. I often told people that she was the love of my life. I practically raised her when our parents were working multiple jobs. About 10 years ago, we got to live together and it was so magical. People would step into our space and say that it felt like a sanctuary, which was a reflection of our bond, no kidding. Eventually, we moved in with our separate partners. I dove deeper into my spiritual studies, and because we weren't living together, I didn't share as much of my growth with her. Over time, I found it harder to relate. We grew into different people, no longer the two that created magic under one roof. I held tightly onto that relationship. I didn't want to lose the love of my life and all the magic that we had built together. But I was clinging to what existed 5 years ago, not exploring what was now. The universe decided that the only way to break up this attachment was to blow it up like Trump's 4th of July parade. We had a huge falling out and didn't speak to each other for a whole month and a half while she was pregnant, which was a big deal since I was one of her main support systems. But in that breath of time in which we weren't talking, I was able to step back and see the bigger picture. We needed to fully release each other before we could connect in a new way. And you know what? I am damn lucky to have a self-aware and spiritually developed sister who could come to the same realization. Now we're exploring a new version of our relationship. It's interesting, at times it's unfamiliar, but yet it's still exciting. Not all relationships will shift naturally. Some will require multiple iterations of reconnection before you find new common ground. Others will drop away completely. And yes, it's painful, but in hindsight, you'll understand why. It's so important to stay open and fluid in your relationships. Otherwise, you'll definitely be living in two separate realities. Number 4, finding your people and combating loneliness. Loneliness is common in the early stages of awakening. For a long time, I didn't have anyone to share my experiences with. I felt isolated, especially when I was going through my own little version of the dark night of the soul. Eventually, I found my tribe in a few healing modality classes. The intimacy and authenticity I experienced there was more real than many of my lifelong relationships. Recently, I got to attend this retreat where many of them were present. Being in the same physical space was beautiful. I could now see a new depth in our connection and a synergy that I had never experienced before. Even though we're all different with different interests, ideas, and paths, we really saw and respected each other on our own individual path. And that's soul nourishing in a way that I didn't know that I even needed. Finding community isn't about seeking validation. It's about connection, support, and growth. Whether online or in person, these relationships remind you that you're not alone. They offer the kind of honesty and vulnerability that true spiritual companionship brings. I know it's not always easy to find your people. It took me 10 years. But to be fair, I am pretty introverted. Still, I highly recommend it. It amplifies your spiritual path. You grow by witnessing others. They become a stabilizing force, a home to return to when everyday life gets overwhelming. And lastly, the best part about it is you get to bounce all of these wild ideas about the universe with them, and they don't think you're nuts. Number 5, fear of judgment and being judgmental. For the longest time, I kept my spiritual journey to myself. I was afraid of being judged or being labeled the woo-woo girl. So I avoided sharing my experiences with my friends, and I definitely kept quiet at work. When people would ask me about my hobbies, I would stick to the safe answers like dancing and art. It felt like I was living a double life, hiding a deeply important part of myself just to seem normal, whatever that means. At the same time, I noticed the opposite happening. I was judging others who weren't on a spiritual path. I carried this quiet sense of piousness, like somehow I was more aware. Looking back, I realized that that was just a defense mechanism. It was easier for me to judge than risk being vulnerable. The tension between hiding and judging was a big part of straddling my two imagined worlds. I thought everyone needed to be on a path and it needed to look like mine. Now that I've matured, I know better. Everyone is on a spiritual path, whether they realize it or not. And it's not my job to judge what that looks like for them. Every soul is learning something I might not fully ever understand. For example, I used to be annoyed with my partner, and honestly, I still do get annoyed with him. We are kind of opposites. He loves Ayn Rand and capitalism and is often spiritually questioning and can have a very black and white view of reality. And we used to fight a lot. But now I actually listen to him with curiosity. His passion actually inspires me. There's a deep soulfulness to his beliefs. And I believe whatever he's exploring is a part of his path, and I respect what that is. Spirit shows up everywhere we look. Acceptance is key. I no longer feel the need to defend my spirituality or seek validation for it. Number 6, letting go can feel like a death process. Your environment will change, and a part of your journey is to accept that change. I clung to so many different things, such as my career, certain relationships, even dreams that I thought I wanted. I held on because they were familiar, safe, easy to explain to others, and I thought they defined me. But deep down, I knew they didn't belong to me anymore. They belonged to an older version of myself. Letting go felt like going through a death process. It was painful and there was a lot of uncertainty. But once I surrendered, I felt lighter, freer, and more whole. It wasn't about losing anything. It was about shedding layers that really weren't mine. It's hard to leave behind what's familiar, but it's necessary if you want to discover who you're truly becoming. The grief is real, but so is the expansion that follows. Lastly, number 7, the leap is yours. Walking the path takes courage. It's not always easy and often requires letting go of relationships, jobs, or identities we once clung to. All the things we're afraid to change, the attachments, the habits, the stories we tell ourselves, that's what's creating the illusion of two realities. And honestly, it took me a long time to understand that. The two worlds I thought I was straddling were just a figment of my imagination. There was only one truth. And when you finally gather enough courage to let go, you finally land in that truth. Now that I've taken the leap, really honoring my truth, my experiences, and my unique journey to the best of my abilities, everything is deepening and expanding in ways I never could have imagined. The energy I used to spend managing the illusion of two worlds is now being used to live more fully in one. In this one true reality I am living in is way more grounded, sacred, and completely alive. And honestly, it keeps getting better the more that I learn to let go. So I would love to hear if anyone else has experienced the same kind of things or felt that they were living in two realities as well, and how they ended up managing it. Please leave a comment. We can all learn a lot from each other. If you like this video and want to learn more about energy healing, spirituality, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Remember to tune in, listen deeply, shift completely, and bloom. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.